Amigos, y ahora les presentamos a nuestro invitado esta noche, una persona que está involucrado por muchísimos años en el RC, conocida por todos ustedes. Muchas personas la llaman Mr. Serpent. Les presentamos a Michael Salven, una persona que realmente tiene una excelente trayectoria en el RC. Y bueno, vamos a empezar nuestra entrevista con él. Hi, Michael, how are you? Thank you for being here with us.
Hi, Paolo. Thanks a lot for inviting me. It's a pleasure. Of course, we know each other for a long time, so it's nice to see you again.
Yeah, sure. Maybe more than 25 years, but who's counting?
Who's counting? Who's counting the count?
I'm bad in numbers, so
Good.
I don't even try to think about it.
Hello, Michael. Welcome to the program. Thanks for being with Con el Acelerador Fondo. It's really nice to meet you. We do not have the pleasure to meet already, but this is your program, and thanks for being here, Michael. It's a pleasure.
It's a pleasure to me.
Bueno, amigos, Rino hoy no ha podido estar con nosotros para hacer la entrevista habitual, así que voy a tener que, digamos, encargarme de esto.
Ya lo corrimos. Ya lo corrimos.
Yeah, we fired that guy. Yeah, that's it. We're looking for a new one. Hey, Michael, you know somebody that wants to
You know somebody?
My Spanish is super bad, so...
Oh, okay.
No, we're saying that we fired Rino. We fired Rino, so we're scouting for another guy. If you know someone, please send it to us because Rino is already fired from this program.
So what are the requests? What should he be able to do?
He needs to be funny.
Okay.
He needs to know a couple things about RC. Not that many.
Okay.
He needs to know a lot of guys, a lot of pilots, because this section is about the interview. So,
right, but he doesn't know anybody. I'm actually the one doing.
Yeah, you're the one that's
so he's not really doing that much, honestly. I mean, all he does is complaining and drinking like 5 bottles of water each.
Yes.
Yeah. Water. Yes. Anyway, amigos, entonces vamos a empezar con la entrevista y yes, Michael. So basically, we have had all this situation around the world, and of course, we start all our interviews asking what's the actual situation in Holland, and what's the outlook of racing for the remaining of the year in Europe, since we already know that all the main championships have been basically canceled. However, I'm sure some events are going to be basically, especially like signature events or maybe some club racing. But anyway, what's going on, Michael? Tell us.
Well, basically, I have to say, it's a big problem all over the world. But honestly, Holland was quite okay. We never had a total lockdown. We had bars and restaurants had been closed for almost 2 months, but they reopened 2 weeks ago. Obviously, there is no racing. On our club, the club itself, or the track was closed for a month, but we are now able to go practicing, keeping the distance, and other than that, it's just for the club members. So there is a little bit of action, but racing in Europe will resume, I think, well, basically European sanctioned races have been cancelled. That means European Championship and everything EFRA related. But EMS will restart in August.
Excellent. Bueno, amigos, le pregunté a Michael como primera pregunta lo habitual, ¿qué tal está la situación en Holanda? Y cuál es, digamos, el futuro de las carreras en Europa, considerando que ya han cancelado, como todo el mundo sabe, los campeonatos titulados de EFRA, campeonatos europeos. Y nos dice que, bueno, en Holanda la situación no ha estado tan grave, nunca han estado realmente completamente encerrados, si bien, digamos, han estado practicando lo que es la parte de la distanciación física, lo han llamado distanciación social, pero honestamente debería ser la distanciación física entre la gente. Las pistas como tales están abiertas solamente para, digamos, un grupo restringido, siguiendo todos los protocolos de seguridad, la máscara y todo ese tipo de actividades. Y realmente, como les expliqué, a nivel de campeonatos europeos no hay nada. Sin embargo, el ENS va a empezar nuevamente lo que es sus actividades a partir de el mes de julio o agosto, no me acuerdo exactamente. Sin embargo, la situación todavía no está resuelta, digamos, en Holanda. Well, my next question then, Michael, will be, now let's go talk RC, of course. That's what we all love and we know. So you've been racing for a long time. How did you actually started RC? What was your first car? Who introduced you to this sport? And if you remember, and how was actually the transition from racing to designing, to being involved at the level you're being involved for such a long time? Tell us a little bit about that.
Okay, this is such a long story. I have to ask you if I should give you a break from once in a while to make the translation.
Yeah, sure. We can do that.
He got good memory, don't worry. He remembers everything.
Well, the whole thing started when I got a Christmas gift from my father. My father used to fly airplanes, model airplanes. But he tried me to get involved in that as well. But then when I tried first, I crashed his plane. So
that was not a happy moment.
No, not for him. Also not for me, to be honest. So he thought probably that something more two-dimensional was more suited to me, and I got a car, which in that time was an 8-scale gas car, as a Christmas gift, and that's how it all started. My first race, I believe, was in 1980, and then from then
so you
on,
started, that was what, late 70s, 75, 76? I mean, yeah, how much time there was between your first car to the first race? You know, you had a few years, because you see, nowadays people, of course, these are different times. These are times where basically people want instant satisfaction. So they purchase the car, can be ready to run away, which of course was not available at the time, but they go to the track immediately. I know for myself, I practiced a few years before actually entering my first race. How was it for you, that process?
Yeah, same for me. I think maybe 2 years. I just played around, and to be honest, the first few times I went to a big parking lot, it was a big satisfaction if I could get the engine started. So times have changed a little bit, but yeah, that I think 2 years before I did my first race.
Okay, I'll translate a little bit so we actually give a little more details into the story, because you have to know, Michael, you have a lot of fans basically in all this side of the world. Of course, this program in Spanish, so all the Spanish-speaking people also in Europe. But anyway, let me give a little bit of translation so we can go. So, le pregunté a Michael cómo empezó, ya que tiene una trayectoria larguísima, cómo fueron sus inicios en el RC, y bueno, también le pregunté cómo fue esa transición para, digamos, de ser un piloto a ser, digamos, diseñador. Vamos a tratar de ir contestando poco a poco porque la historia es larga. Simplemente, el primer auto fue un regalo de Navidad. El papá le gustaba volar aviones y la primera experiencia no fue muy buena, ya que destruyó el avión. Sin embargo, bueno, con este auto que recibió por Navidad, y empezó a practicar por un par de años, y finalmente, alrededor de 1980, entró en su primera carrera. Y de ahí, bueno, ya toda la historia la sabemos. So, yes, after that first event, everything started to evolve, I guess.
Yeah, I have to say, back then I was still at school. So the first 2 years, my race car was like, I made it myself with what I could. It was a mix of all parts I could get. It had a PB clutch and SG chassis and all mixed up. and I did not too bad at the first races, and then it became a little bit more serious, and I actually bought a Serpent Quattro, and I think that was 83 probably, or 82, I don't even remember. So that was my first Serpent, and it immediately was a full suspension.
It was the two-wheel drive car, or already the four-wheel drive with chain car?
No, two-wheel drive. It had a chain, which became longer and longer, and then you had to buy a new one, and sometimes I didn't have the money, and I took out one piece of the chain to make it shorter again, this kind of stuff.
Yes, yes. Great. Bueno, entonces su primer carro, mejor dicho, empezaron las competencias y digamos era de una manera bastante artesanal, agarrando piezas de diferentes marcas, armando su mismo chasis. Obviamente eso eran los años donde Michael era estudiante, así que como todo estudiante las capacidades financieras no son, digamos, muy elevadas, hasta que por fin, alrededor del año 82, compró su primer Serpent y empezó la historia de amor con Serpent. That's right. That's how the love story started with Serpent. 1982 with your first car, correct?
Yes.
Correct.
I bought the car, then immediately with the suspension car, I became better in my results at the racing, and I moved up the competition ladder, because back then we had 3 classes in Germany, and it took me 3 years, and I was in the top class. And then in between, I got a little bit of sponsoring along. First I had a shop that sponsored me with tires, and I at the end of I'm not really sure. I think 85, 86, I was sponsored by Serpent directly. So that part went quite fast. And then, because I was then at a university studying car engineering, I got involved with the development of the cars. And initially that was with Ron Tom, and who was, like, in my opinion, a genius. But then we started to work together on cars. And my first car together with him was the Excel. Serpent Excel. And later on, he stopped working for Serpent and retired, and then I was asked to join Serpent as an engineer.
Correct. So let me translate, because then it comes the time of your first design, of course, which was extremely successful. But let me translate. So, en esos años, digamos, con el primer auto suspensión, el Serpent 4, fue, digamos, uno de los autos que ya tenía una excelente performance. Él fue, digamos, mejorando y subiendo, digamos, el ranking a nivel nacional. En ese punto fue posible para él ir logrando patrocinios de tiendas de hobby, hasta que inclusive alrededor del mediado de los 80, él se convirtió en inclusive piloto oficial para la fábrica Serpent, trabajando inclusive de la mano del diseñador en ese momento, que se llamaba Ron Tom, y siendo estudiante de ingeniería, obviamente su pasión por todo lo que era la parte de ingeniería y todas esas cosas permitió que seguir envolviéndose en lo que era la parte de diseño y desarrollo de los autos, hasta llegar a lo que nos va a contar ahora, que fue sus primeras ya diseños y creaciones personales. So Ronton basically steps out, you come in, and it starts a new era for Serpent with Michael Salven as the lead designer. So tell us about your first experience, the first cars that you designed. How was basically the path and transition? Because one thing is helping and being involved, and then the other thing is having the full responsibility of doing everything.
Well, it's a totally different thing. Yes, that's true. I have to say that a lot of people think that the Vector was my first car, but actually it was not. My first car for the company was the Impact. But back then, Serpent didn't have a cut system or 3D cut system. They had AutoCAD, and they had a guy that made all the drawings. And when I made the impact, I basically had to tell him what to draw. So I did a car in prototyping. I machined a lot of parts, and then he had to make the drawings. And that was the first car. But then Serpent switched to a 3D cut system. So the designer they had and myself, we learned how to use it. And from then on, that the first car we did on the new system was the Vector. And yes, I think that was a big milestone, because a lot of things that we did on this car, the layout, where the belts go, where the shafts are, the suspension with the rear two pivots on the bottom arm, all this kind of stuff is still valid today.
Yes, changed. That was the car that basically started, but beside the fact that was an extremely successful car, was basically the car to have in those years. Everybody basically either had that car or was out to lunch. But that also inspired a lot of designers from other manufacturers to basically copy, get inspired, whatever you want to call it. Not only the basics of the pivot ball, but also, as you said, the layout of the car, position of the servo, how the belts were positioning and running through the car. And so basically, Serpent has always been a leader and pioneer. You have been basically one of the designers that have been creating trends in a lot of stuff. So that's also must be like a extremely, you should be very proud of that as well.
Yes, actually, in the beginning, it was really, really difficult for me to accept when people copied something which I thought was my idea. But you have to take it as a compliment. You have to think in a way that if your idea was a bad idea, you probably wouldn't be copied anyway. But credits to my then boss, Peter Verwus. He had a culture in the company to always think about outside the box and about new things and how to improve, and not only copy and improve the details.
Correct.
So the whole atmosphere in the company back then was very, very open-minded and rewarding. Yes.
Excellent. Let me translate. It's been a little longer, so I don't get lost in quote-unquote translation. Emiliano, can you say something? Or
you do better job than Rino, your contract.
Hey, I'm expensive, right?
You're not funny, but you're better than him.
Well, I mean, so we need to find a clown.
Yes. A funnier clown.
Oh, okay. Le estaba preguntando a Michael, básicamente siguiendo la historia de, digamos, la transición de sus inicios hasta ser piloto y después diseñador. Y bueno, llegan los tiempos de, digamos, ya él transicionando de su primer carro, el 4, a lo que era ya el trabajo de diseño. Y bueno, su primer proyecto fue nada más y nada menos que el Impact, un carro que obviamente marcó tendencia, fue un carro que muchísima gente de habla hispana y en fin, obviamente no solamente habla hispana, sino del mundo se inició, un carro extremadamente exitoso, popular, y ese fue su primer proyecto. El segundo proyecto, no menos, digamos, exitoso, fue el Vector, un carro que marcó tendencia, un carro que, digamos, fue revolucionario en cuanto a dictó los parámetros de lo que es el RC de hoy en día, de los carros modernos. Todavía de ese carro se usa la misma distribución de las correas, la posición, obviamente, digamos, de muchos componentes, el sistema de pivot ball, que si bien, digamos, no fue inventado obviamente por Serpent, pero Serpent lo adaptó y lo mejoró. Y en ese sentido, Michael nos explica que, digamos, siempre Serpent se ha contradistinguido por ser una compañía que trataba de liderar y ser, digamos, crear tendencia y llevar, digamos, la pauta en lo que es la parte de diseño. Muchos de ellos han sido copiados, inspirados, mejorados, sin embargo, siempre ha sido ese el trend. Michael, so we know basically a lot more right now about you, and we know more about what was that transition. My next question will be in the same line of ideas. So basically, you have all this year of experience as a driver, all this year of experience as a designer. Considering how the cars are made nowadays, what are you looking right now when you see something new? Let's say you have to make a new car. Well, nowadays we don't make new cars anymore. It's always an evolution for many reasons that we're not going to explain right now. But anyway, so what are you looking right now, basically, when you try to make the next car? What's your inspiration? Are you trying to solve a problem? That's how everything starts. Are you trying to improve? I mean, what's your mindset when you approach that type of problem?
It seems like an easy question, but it's not. Obviously, especially 1/8 scale is the oldest class in RC. So and the rules have been quite stable. So if in these circumstances, it's very, very difficult to make an improvement to the cars, because everything gets optimized all the years and becomes less vulnerable, and reliability becomes better. And on top of that, when I was, let's say, a little bit younger and more competitive, I just relied on my own experience and on my own testing and stuff. While now I have to rely a little bit more on other drivers, and that's the most difficult part, because not only do you need to trust them when they test something, but the other part is the more test drivers you have, the more feedback you have. And believe me, if you have 10 drivers, it can happen that there are 10 different opinions. And I think with my experience, it's still possible to improve stuff. And yes, part of it is solving problems, but other things are still trying to think out of the box, but it's becoming more difficult in 8 scale at least. So it's easier in classes that are newer, like GT class or
Correct.
That kind of stuff.
Correct. So, le estaba preguntando a Michael, digamos, como una continuación del mismo tema, cómo él hoy en día, o cómo lo ha hecho siempre, pero digamos hoy en día siempre se convierte más difícil, como nos explica él, cómo afronta él el diseño y la solución para nuevos carros, nuevos desarrollos, y como nos está explicando en el caso de la clase 1.8, que es una clase que ha estado bien estable en cuanto a reglas, reglamentos y ese tipo de cosas. Hoy en día, digamos, se convierte siempre más difícil generar, digamos, innovaciones, simplemente porque al no haber cambios en lo que es la parte de reglamento, es todo bien encerrado en parámetros muy fijos. Sin embargo, siempre se trata de buscar mejoras a partir de solucionar problemas y siempre con la idea de innovar. Adicionalmente, hoy en día el proceso es diferente, ya que, digamos, también está colaborando con muchos pilotos, y tener la opinión de muchos pilotos a veces es positivo y negativo, ya que, como bien él dice, pueden todos tener opiniones diferentes y es difícil tomar una decisión. Okay, my next question will be, you've been involved as long as me, or longer, of course, that you've seen the evolution from no suspension through a piece of an engineer that we have today, where basically you really need to have knowledge on car dynamics in order to be able to, let's say, try to find the better performance, knowledge about roll center and all that stuff that back in the day, I'm not even saying back in the day when there was no suspension, but even the first suspension car, basically all those adjustments were not possible. How do you see the next evolution of cars? Can we really, as you just said right now, the rules are basically enclosed, so there is not much room to go outside that box. However, you can say the same, I don't know, in the 90s when we had the very successful Vector, and nowadays you have a 988 that even has a two different type of shock system depending on if you're rolling or if you're, or if you're basically doing this type of movement. But anyway, what's the next, in your opinion, what's the next step in designing for our little car, especially the 8-scale class?
I'm not sure if I have an answer, and if I would, I'm not sure I would tell you right now.
Michael, I'm sorry. He's trying to take advantage. I'm only asking questions, and he wants you to tell him your secret. That's not fair, Michael. Don't fall for him.
Yeah.
It doesn't need to be a precise answer. Maybe we can say that we're gonna see 6 wheels or whatever. We saw during all these years, we saw 3-speed. We saw a bunch of stuff. We were going back and forth. We saw a system with, I don't know, in the 90s, BMT had a system in the rear called active, with basically the suspension was actually have, the toe was actually moving with the movement, the suspension. Of course, we're going to still have 4 wheels. As you said, the rules are very limited. The size of the fuel tank, the amount of basically brake disc, that stuff you can't change. However, stuff can be still done, in my opinion. We can still go faster. For instance, if we see Fort Myers nowadays to Fort Myers, I don't know, 20 years ago, and of course the engines have improved, the tires have improved, but we're basically 2.5 seconds faster on the same track. So, of course, the chassis has a lot to do with that.
Yes. I would agree that you can make things quite a bit different. I mean, you have had an electric touring car with a complete different suspension regarding heave and roll and stuff. You could probably, I'm not sure, in some rules it's allowed to have 3-speed instead of 2-speed, but even make everything extreme or thinking about a different kind of suspension, I believe that the steps you are going to achieve are becoming smaller and smaller. Of course, like in the past when you had the pen cars and then all of a sudden you had a full suspension car, of course you made a big step in lap times. But even then it took, 3, 4, 5 months to learn about the new car before you actually went faster. And then from 2-wheel drive to 4-wheel drive, we had a transition almost a year that people said, no, it's not faster at all, blah, blah, blah. I mean, of course it was, but these steps are becoming smaller because the rules are stable for such a long time.
Correcto. So, le estaba preguntando a Michael cuál es el próximo paso en la evolución. Obviamente, resumiendo, digamos, porque los temas son bastante técnicos. Básicamente, la misma transición que hemos tenido desde carros sin suspensión a carros con suspensión, tracción de las 2 ruedas, las 4 ruedas, han sido pasos muy grandes donde hoy en día, considerando que las reglas son bien precisas y bien encajonadas, se hace más difícil tener saltos tan grandes. Obviamente son digamos, es una constante mejora en lo que es la parte, digamos, de afinar lo que se tiene, y en su opinión sí se podría, digamos, hacer unos cambios radicales de diseño. Sin embargo, no está seguro si realmente la mejora sería tan grande como en los pasos que vimos durante los últimos 20 o 30 años. So you mentioned GT class, and GT actually class was my next question. So we have heard opinions about many world class drivers like yourself. Of course, the GT class have changed in the last 10 to 15 years. As you said, there is an evolution there. So, will you be driving one? We have never seen you driving one. And what's your opinion as a driver? We know basically what's the importance of the class for the RC, but what's your opinion as a driver on this class?
To be honest, I've never ever driven one.
I knew it.
And so I can't.
So the next question is why, Michael? Why?
Well, the main reason is that in Europe, it's still very, very little. And the racing you have, like in Germany, you have GT races, they are all electric.
Correct. I agree.
So I'm too old to go electric. Come on.
Hey, Michael, it's very easy nowadays. It's plug and play.
I know.
There is no more, cutting the comb, changing the brushes, selecting the springs.
It has become a lot better. That's true.
That no more. It's about having a little box with a few things that you can change, and it's straightforward. Basically nowadays, there is a lot of knowledge. But anyway, you are a gas guy like myself. You don't like the electric. No sound. No.
No boom.
Exactly. They're fast though. I mean, they're impressive.
But, I mean, I have to be honest. It's probably going to happen anyway. Also on full-size cars. So.
Yes.
No, actually, I'm not opposed to go electric. It's just short. It's short racing. It's fast. In some classes, it's like faster in the 8-scale electric. When they have like 4-minute qualifiers, it's really, really fast. So I'm not really opposed, but it just didn't happen so far. So any comment I would do about driving these cars would be not fair to.
Okay, but you are considering driving the car?
Yeah, sure.
We're getting older, so basically it's good for our reflexes. The car is slower. You can actually rub some fenders here and there. It's it's acceptable to do that. It's still it's gentleman agreement to But no. Beside the joke, we had the class seems to basically gather more and more interest from more manufacturers. We had Kenji from Infinity last week that he was telling us that basically they're working on their project of their off-road car, and of course, as a natural, they're going to have the GT, and basically he plans to have all his all-star roster team of driver mechanics, and he needs a cook though. I told him, hey, you need a cook in your team. You guys are traveling without a cook. All this prepared food, that.
What you want to apply as a cook?
No, not at all. No. No, not at all. I don't qualify for that. But yeah, so eventually those guys are gonna end up racing, which is gonna make the class, bigger in some point. It depends. A lot of people is looking at this as a basically beginners class, others a gentleman class. There is a lot of. The reality is there are a lot of companies that are jumping into this class right now. A lot of companies in Italy, and so basically we think this class is going to get more popular, obviously.
Yeah.
So you should drive, basically.
But it seems it's the popularity in especially in South America seems to be big, and then the south of North America as well. So. And then in Europe, it's more electric, to be honest. But it's also for us, it's a growing class. So we need to get or stay involved. Obviously, we are already, and we have a good car. So we will see.
Good. So I'm going to translate right now. Le estaba preguntando a Michael sobre la clase GT, una clase que todos nosotros amamos y disfrutamos. Y bueno, él me dijo que todavía no ha tenido la oportunidad de manejar un carro, aunque reconoce que la clase está, digamos, creciendo, sobre todo en Alemania y en Europa en este momento, lo que es la versión eléctrica de la clase está bastante popular y creciendo, y de la misma manera que yo, él también, digamos, ama y adora lo que es el ruido y el olor de los carros nitro. Sin embargo, con más fabricantes, digamos, involucrándose en la clase, obviamente hay que, digamos, poner un poco más atención, y en un futuro no sabemos si él participará en algún evento. Sin embargo, sí nos ha dicho que manejará el carro, y seguramente lo veremos de repente hacer algún evento, ya que, como todos sabemos, la clase es súper divertida, permite, digamos, correr de una manera, digamos, un poco más jocosa, ¿no? Puede haber algunos toques y, digamos, no es tan grave para el carro, en fin. Emiliano, no sé si tengas alguna pregunta a nuestro invitado.
Claro que sí, muchas gracias, Michael. Thank you for being here in the program, as I told you. I have a couple of questions. My first question is, what words or what can you say to the pilots, young kids, or people that does not have any knowledge about RC and they're starting in the hobby? To be a very good pilot with these cars also needs or requires to get to know how to manage and to do some mechanic in the car. So what suggestion or what kind of advice can you do to those people that are watching this program and that are starting with which scale do you suggest? What would be any suggestion for these guys, please, Michael?
Okay, first of all, you need to have you need to like motorsports, I believe, and you need to have an affinity with mechanical stuff. If you are just a driver, you can end up driving well, but then you need somebody doing the mechanical side. And I always enjoyed to have both. Like in Formula One, the driver never sets up the car and the engineer is never able to drive the car. And I enjoyed doing both. But if you think you like mechanics and you like the competition, you should try to find a mentor. And that can be somebody in a club or somebody in the family that's already racing, but you should try to find a guy that helps you in the beginning. I think that's really important to explain your stuff. I know for example, from Dominic Reiner, I think you all know him. He had a friend in his club who was also driving. He was a terrible driver, but a good mechanic. And more important, he was willing and able to explain everything to Dominic. And he, some people might know it's Heiner Martin. He was involved also in Germany in the organization, and he passed away last year, I believe. But anyway, he was very, very instrumental in Dominic's success. So if you can find somebody in a club or close to you that knows a little bit, try to convince him to help you.
Which class do you think it's going to be the first class to start, the easiest class for hobbies to start?
I have to be honest, and that would be an electric car, first of all. And then it depends if you have an on-road track nearby or a parking lot. Because if not, it will be an electric buggy. Then you can drive everywhere on the street, but also in your backyard and garden if you have. So I would say it's stupid to start with 1.8 gas on road.
Oh yes, for sure. I'm going to try to translate. Or
so Emiliano, you need to find a mentor.
I need it. Voy a traducir, o bueno, o tú si quieres traducir.
No, you're doing the interview, I'm just listening.
Perfecto, si hago un trabajo pobre, por favor, me interrumpes. Le preguntaba a Michael si qué sugerencias le puede hacer a alguien que quiere empezar en el hobby, a aquellos niños o familias que se quieren acercar a esta actividad y empezar a participar. Básicamente lo que me dice es que tendríamos, cada persona que quiera empezar en el hobby sí tendría que buscar a alguien que le ayude dentro del club, que haga mecánica, que hay que diferenciar muy bien el tema de la mecánica y el manejo, que si alguien solo quiere ser piloto, que sí tiene que buscar el apoyo, que funciona como la Fórmula 1 básicamente, que el piloto no se mete al setting del coche y el mecánico no se mete a manejar, ¿no? Entonces, básicamente, que sí sugiere que busquemos el apoyo de alguien en la pista, en el circuito, que pueda ayudar con temas mecánicos, sobre todo si el que está empezando no sabe de temas de mecánica de coches o algunas ideas elementales, pues sí sería sugerible que tenga alguien que le ayude. Incluso sacó como el ejemplo a Grainier, que ya estuvo en el programa con nosotros, que en su pista había otra persona, no recuerdo el nombre, igual ahorita Pablo lo escuchará, que es alguien que falleció el año pasado, que estaba en la organización de Alemania, que resulta que era un piloto muy malo, pero era un gran mecánico y hicieron ahí una buena mancuerna y fue lo que también le ayudó a Grainier salir. Entonces, básicamente dice que deberíamos, quien quiera empezar, que sí se acerque a cualquier persona ahí en el club para que tenga algo de apoyo. Y la pregunta que le hice al final un poquito fue que qué clase es la que sugiere. Sugiere que sea un eléctrico. De preferencia, ahí no entendí muy bien si se refería a un eléctrico tipo un GT, porque decía que no un on-road, que el Touring Pro, el 1.8 no es la opción, pero sí una especie de buggy o algún coche eléctrico que puedas usar en un estacionamiento y que puedas ahí practicar. ¿Más o menos estuvo bien, Pablo?
Más o menos.
Más o menos.
Más
Okay.
o menos.
Ahora, my next question, Michael.
Hey, we're only allowed one question.
Hey, I pay for two.
Okay, go ahead.
You paid?
Huh?
You paid for it, right?
I pay Paolo. He doesn't allow me to speak.
He just told me it's expensive.
He's very expensive. He doesn't want it. Trust me.
It's okay? Everything is okay?
Everything okay at home?
Yeah, everything's fine.
Excellent.
No casualties?
No casualties.
Okay, Michael, one last question. In all your trajectory and all the races you have, which race represents the most emotional or sensitive, or the one that you remember when you had, I don't know, like a very close race with another pilot, like the most difficult race or the moment when you recall that you had like a close race with another pilot? What's one of the experience that you remember like the most present for you in your career? Can you share with us a little bit so we can tell all Latin American pilots?
Well, I guess you're talking about one of my races because I know one from, probably or the first one I think about is the World Championship in Thailand. And for me, that was very, very special in a lot of ways. I even went there before they had the Worlds, and they were building that huge driver stand from steel, and it looked like a shipyard. And then they had the pre-Worlds, and it was a really, really strange race. And
which year?
The guy that made the track on a golf club, on the area of a golf club next to a swimming pool, by the way, he asked me after the race what I think about the track, and I tried to be polite. I said, "Oh, it's beautiful," but in reality, it was super bumpy, and it also had a problem when you enter the pit lane, you couldn't see your car. So I tried to be polite, and I told him that if that it's actually a little bit bumpy. And I told him about the problem with the pit lane, and I told him about the pit lane the day before the final, and then they cut that piece of the driver stand and put it back together for the next day. So that was super crazy, and the whole event, the world itself, I TQ'd the race, and I thought I had it in my back. Basically, back then we had 1 hour warm up, and my biggest concurrent was Lamberto Collari, and he in the warm up he was like 3/10 slower. And after half an hour, my boss came up to me and said to me, "Please drive slower because he will be frustrated." And he was with our team, and he was my boss, so I kind of listened. And then in the final, he was faster than me, so he won the race. But I always remember that race because it was such a nice atmosphere and a good organization and a very, very nice track and nice country.
Yes, if I remember correctly, if I'm not mistaken, that was Mr. Ratanarat.
Yes.
He's still around. I mean, it's incredible. He's still going to the races. He's a guy that has an incredible passion as well.
Yeah, it was so funny. He studied in Germany, so whenever we talked, he wanted to talk in German, and it was so funny to see him talking German. But it's part of that whole thing that I remember very well of that race.
Well, Emiliano, I'm not sure if he had to go. I can see him, but I'll have to translate for him. I guess I have to send him. Yes, I have to send in a bill.
He said to you, "You are not funny," and then you made the joke of him.
Maybe that's why. Maybe that's why he didn't like jokes. He's a lawyer, so whatever.
That's the problem, I think.
Anyway, let me translate real quick to see if we can wrap up the interview. So, Emiliano le preguntó cuál fue su evento que recuerda con más, digamos, que digamos le trae mejores recuerdos, y nos estabas explicando básicamente. Emiliano,
I'm sorry. I lost. I have no lights and my modem went off, so I'm connecting on my cell phone. I'm sorry.
Okay,
sorry, Michael.
Did you?
No problem.
No, you're something else, man. For real. I mean, hey, did you hear the answer? I have to do your job as well. I mean, what the hell?
No, I didn't listen to everything. I'm gonna listen to the program after.
Okay, so let me do the translation then. Hey, you'll have to pay more now, okay?
Don't worry.
Bueno, le preguntó cuál era su carrera más conmemorable, la que recordaba con mejor, con mejor, digamos, espíritu, en fin. Y nos habló de la carrera en Tailandia, donde fue una pista construida solo para el evento, donde fueron a probar en varias oportunidades, donde básicamente hizo el TQ y él se sentía bien cómodo. Su, digamos, contrincante número 1 era un tal Lamberto Collari, no sé si han escuchado de él. Y bueno, terminó ganando la carrera, pero sí, nos describió el evento como un evento increíble, el escenario, la pista al lado de una piscina, en medio de una cancha de golf, cosas, digamos, que hoy en día no se ven. De repente algo parecido a lo que teníamos en México con la pista de Toluca. Pegaso, correcto, Pegaso. Algo parecido a Pegaso, pero en otro estilo. So, well, Michael, I think we have many more questions. However, time it's important as well. We have stuff to do. You have stuff to do. We'd like to thank you. Emiliano, if you want, you can wrap up the interview. At least you do something. I mean, you never do anything anyway.
Hey, I'm going to charge you for this. Michael, thanks for being in the program. Really, it's a pleasure. We've talked a little bit on Facebook, but try to come to Mexico. Try to come to the Latin America tracks. We have many good races. Paolo has come to many of them. You will love the
Yes,
racing.
it's true. You have never been to actually South America. I mean, the closest you have been maybe is Mexico. I mean, to South America.
Mexico. We had the Worlds in Mexico.
I know, but that's what you have done. You have to basically, hey, it's a good excuse for a vacation. Are you listening? Hello?
Yes.
Yeah, she heard it.
You need to come to the tracks. It's an official request.
Well, by the way, Emiliano, I'm not sure if you follow, but she is an excellent pit woman in this case.
Oh, really?
Oh my gosh, she's one of the best in the business.
We have very good pit women in Mexico,
No,
so we
this-
can make a contest. We
It's
can make a
true.
contest.
This is another level. As a matter of
She's
fact,
she's with the fastest guys, same
correct.
times, but it's always full, always, and always safe. So
Hey, don't take it wrong, but do you think I can, use her services when I'm in Europe? I mean,
You don't have
You
enough
mean
cash, man.
as a
You
pit
don't have
woman.
enough cash.
in the pits, refueling. That's all I'm.
You have to ask her.
We are in different teams, but we're,
Yeah,
we're
the problem is this, different.
well, we put black shirts. No sponsors. How about that?
No sponsors. Well, Michael, thank you very much for being the program. Please take care at home with you and your family. And like Paulo says, let's try to make a little space in your agenda and come to Mexico, come to some South America tracks, and we will be very glad to receive you and your family and have a blast of time in the track. Thanks a lot for being here, and it's a pleasure that you share a little of your experience with us.
It was a pleasure. Thank you.
Thank you, Michael. Have a good one. Bye-bye.
Thank you,
Bye-bye.
Paolo. Bye.